All right, welcome back. Now, I'm not going to waste time talking about the Ronda Rousey fight because that's all it was, a Ronda Rousey fight. I didn't even pay to watch that fight. I knew what would happen. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't. Now I see a bunch of people leaving comments in the comment section saying that they felt robbed. Not me. I waited until after it was over. So the UFC card for me was more entertaining than that Netflix thing. So let's go over it. Now, I made 2 predictions, even though there were 3 fights. But I feel like I got 3 predictions right because the way Cavalcante lost is how I predicted she would lose. I can't remember if it's still on my channel or not. But I said, even in her debut, I said her inactivity would be her downfall. The time that she spends standing there looking at her opponent will be her downfall. And I also pointed out how the fact that she gets hit in fights meant that Ketlen would have her moments on the feet. And I said that Ketlen would probably overwhelm her on the feet with counters. And that's what happened. Ketlen had her moments on the feet, and she had the only moments on the ground. What it looked like to me is that Ketlen made it a pretty even fight on the feet. She didn't dominate, and she wasn't overly dominated. And it was the times that Ketlen had her on the ground that won her the fight, even though for, I would say, a matter of a few seconds. You know, seconds in a fight is a long time. Say 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a long time in a fight. For stretches of seconds, Cavalcante was giving her the business on the ground off her back. Many of those shots, especially those elbows, looked like hard shots from Cavalcante's back. But you took shots. Ketlen was the only one to have control time. And it looked like Cavalcante didn't know how to get back to her feet. Can't do that. In the prediction video where I talked about Cavalcante's weaknesses and how she would lose, had to do with whether or not she had Joanna-like takedown defense and ability to get back to her feet. Something I've been saying forever. These girls are going to have a hard time duplicating that. And you see, she was nowhere near close to Joanna's ability. Takedown defense. And she had no ability, seemed like, to get back to her feet. Excuse me. It was just a bad look for Cavalcante. Also, you notice Cavalcante fight night was significantly bigger than Ketlen. And I mean significantly. She's in a whole different weight class. Easily 10 pounds heavier than Ketlen. Easily. Those of you who keep up with Cavalcante, you know she used to be obese. She's one of those fighters who melted down from obesity. Whereas Ketlen has been in shape all her life. Ketlen was into martial arts as a kid. So she's maintained her physique, has not had to shock her system. Ketlen has not had to shock her body by losing a ton of weight. And Cavalcante does that even between fights. And she's one of those fighters that thinks that that's okay. That's not okay. You see what happened to Pimblett? Fighters who do that, man, usually end up backfiring on them. Just not a good thing to do. You lose too much strength and endurance when you lose a bunch of weight. It's best to stay at your natural weight, like Shevchenko does, like Ketlen does. And look at that. Just took too many shots. Hands down. Up here taking jabs. You're supposed to be the one jabbing. And this is what I'm saying, man. She doesn't have overwhelming offense standing up. And let me tell you, let's go back for a second to the fact that she melted down from obesity. Jacqueline Cavalcante. She fights like a fat person too, like an obese person. And I don't make no apologies for saying it like that, because I think that's the best way to understand it. Usually, big people, they only throw punches. And they don't have much upper body movement. She still fights as if she's carrying an extra 100 pounds. Her head is right there on center line. There's not much movement. She's got this, she's sort of crouched over Cavalcante, sort of bent forward. And not much movement. And she's just walking around taking these, she's lead-footed. As if she's still obese in there. She don't move like a light person. She doesn't. And Ketlen, it seemed like, had an easy time getting away from her. Denying Cavalcante opportunities simply by backing up and moving laterally. And that was, it looked too easy. I think another thing I pointed out is that Cavalcante needs a stationary target. A stationary target with relatively poor offense and poor defense. And that again reminds me of an overweight person trying to fight. I've seen a lot of fights in my life. Big guys, they don't want to do too much moving. And they need you to stay still. They don't need you bouncing and floating around. They can't hit you. You need you to stay in one spot and to not be better than them at boxing. You know, and to not have defense where it's blocking all their shots. You're going to run out of breath. So that's actually a bad way of fighting. You notice Cavalcante don't even throw that many kicks. It's just boxing. The kicks she throws are like low kicks, calf kicks. That's it. No takedown attempts. This is why I took Ketlen. She's very limited. Just being able to throw, you know, your hand. And she was loading up too much. Okay, in my opinion, if she were to win this fight, I think she would have had to fight, just like I said in her previous fights, the way she fought in the last few minutes of the last round. She needs to make up for her limitations with relentlessness, in my opinion. And whatever happens, happens. I was, you know, in the third round, before the round started, I was thinking to myself, you got to go berserk. Because you haven't in the first two rounds. You got to make up for your limitations with ferociousness and be willing to open up more than Ketlen. If Ketlen's the only one getting the takedowns and Ketlen is making it easy on the fight, who you think gonna win the fight? You don't have no choice but to tweak out. Really, if you want to win, and especially looking at how high in the rankings Ketlen was, if you would have taken her spot, this was the time to come out of your shell. And she could not step up to the plate. She could not answer the call. Now, how old is Cavalcante? because, you know, that will say a lot as far as whether or not. And I think she's kind of middle-aged, right? In her 30s. Well, oh yeah. Wait a minute. She's born in 1977. She's 28 years old. All right, let's look at her record here. First loss in a long time. This is one of the reasons I was hoping that she could pull this off. I picked Ketlen, but I was hoping Cavalcante would pull this off. But I did not want her to win fighting the way she fought. And y'all remember, like, she's done this more than once. She looks spectacular when she's behind in the last round. Like, if she loses the first 2 rounds and she knows she lost, towards the end of the 3rd round is when she looks spectacular. Why her coaches hasn't hammered it into her and trained her to fight like that the whole fight is beyond me. I have to believe it's just something that she can't do. She just can't do it. She's just not that type of fighter. It must be very uncomfortable for her to be a fast starter. That's all you need. The solution to tweak her as a fighter, in my opinion, is to get her to be a fast starter. She's an extremely, and she's slow all throughout the fight. Spend too much time standing there throwing feints, looking at you, throwing feints. Ketlen has been known in the past to be a low volume fighter herself. And she made Cavalcante look inactive. Now, Cavalcante, I think she comes in too heavy. Like I said, she looks like she's in a whole different weight class. A whole different weight class. And that's just a little too much. I mean, it's going to impair your ability to get back to your feet. You got less athleticism. Yeah, I don't see Cavalcante. I'll be surprised if she makes significant improvements, and that's what she's going to need. She's going to need significant improvements to be a champion. Could you imagine her against Kayla Harrison? Could you imagine that? Be a wrap. Or Amanda Nunes. Be a wrap. Or I would even go on to say the likes of Macy Shazon. Right? Several other bantamweights. She gotta do something about that. But it seems like there's not that many girls who can tweak their style, who can make noticeable improvements. There's just not that many. Honestly, a fighter like Alexa Grasso doesn't seem like she really made significant improvements. She's always been fairly good on the ground, feisty and tenacious. Even when she was losing. You know, Suarez, I gave her a pass for that fight. But she almost submitted Carla Esparza. And Grasso has always had hands. My guess is just that 125 is the right division for her. But Cavalcante, simply put, leaky defense. I will say B-level boxing, because that's all she does. I'm going to get out of the habit of calling her a striker. She's not a traditional MMA striker. She's not in there with fists, elbows, knees, tie clinches, kicks, head kicks, like a real striker, bona fide MMA striker. This is a boxer. Has a hard time getting back to her feet. I think she has fairly decent takedown defense. Ketlen just knows how to get you down. And leaky defense, yeah. Cavalcante got a lot to work on if she is going to be a champion. Now this other fight, for some reason, had some people confused about what happened. But some people saw what happened as soon as it happened. Poliana, and was there something going on with the gloves in there? Wasn't the previous fight, you had the same thing where Shauna had an issue with the eye and the glove? Okay, she was cut on her eyelid. I was wondering what was bleeding on her. It was her eyelid. Okay. Well, that was a mistake right there. That's what caused all the problems. Y'all had to have seen what happened, man. Don't tell me y'all didn't. Okay, let me pull it up. I'm going to pull it up just for the sake of the stream. What happened, just in case there's some people still not sure about what happened. But that's embarrassing for Poliana right there. As we all know, that was embarrassing. Wasn't that the first submission? I think in the UFC. And I think they just named it on the spot. A capsule lock. Okay. So Poliana. Let me see. You see this? This is her toe right here. Before that, as you all saw, some of you, most of you saw, I hope, Poliana's, this leg was between Elise's legs. This leg, her left leg, Poliana's left leg, her foot was resting between Ardelean's legs, in her crotch. Ardelean shifted her left leg to get her foot out of her crotch so they would rest on top of her left leg. And Ardelean simply held this part of her body down with her left hand and leaned up to put pressure on this knee. Poliana basically submitted herself. She assisted this submission on herself. She strategically basically put herself in that position where all Elise had to do was lean backwards. Why she committed to that leg lock, triangle lock, whatever that is beyond me. Why did she do that? Is there anybody into MMA out there listening? Is there some type of benefit in using that type of lock when you're on bottom? I thought that was only used when you had your opponent, when their back was to you and you was trying to choke them out. She did it as she was face to face with her. I thought that was like it felt wrong when I saw it, but something about it felt smart. I'm like, okay, she must got a plan. But she was hitting her with some hard elbows. Those elbows are hard. Now, I will say, she was winning those moments off her back. Those elbows to the top of the head was whooping Ardelean. She was very uncomfortable taking them shots. And then she would get hit with some back fists. So this was a goofy fight. This fit right into Ardelean's life and her social media image, which is wacko and crazy. That is easily the highlight of tonight for me. How well this fit into Elise's meme type social media persona, which has almost gotten her 1 million followers. She ain't even ranked yet. And you get a blooper type submission after getting beaten up as you're on top. I thought she was about to lose. I thought she was about to get knocked out. Arlene from on top. where she just collapsed. I thought she was about to eat an elbow or a fist and just fall forward. The fight was going to be over. That was wacky. That was crazy. A capsule lock? Okay. Before that fight, or excuse me, before that submission, Elise, I thought, was looking sharp on the feet. She comes in heavy. I don't know if that's going to help her or hurt her in the future. But it looked like she come in heavy, man. But it looks like she got pretty good stamina. Pretty good stamina. Pretty good hands. Like I said, she's pretty tough, but I thought Poliana was tougher. She was tougher than I expected. Poliana was tougher than I expected she would be. Now, I don't know if they'll cut Poliana. She has a larger following than Elise. Well over 1 million. She had over 1 million a long time ago. Poliana Viana. So if she doesn't stay with the, if she gets cut, I think it'll be easy for her to get into another promotion and maybe even negotiate a healthy contract. But I thought, okay, as far as value, I thought Ketlen kind of stunk it up a little bit, but it wasn't a bad fight. At least the third round kind of saved it. This fight was pretty entertaining. I thought, got a stoppage out of it, right? A good stoppage. They showed up. I thought both of them showed up. Did a good job, Poliana. She wasn't trying to lay down. You know? She was not trying to lay down for Ardelean at all. This fight, I thought the newcomer saved it right in the nick of time because it was about to be a stinking fight. A clumsy, sloppy, falling into the clinch. Now this fight, what's her name? Caliari hurt her with a punch to the eye and just let her off the hook. That was a punch. And Arlene did the same thing. Didn't they both did the same thing? Backed off, even though they both punched their opponent in the eye. But I thought while they were on the feet, it was sloppy, but they were fighting. They were tenacious, especially when it first started. For a moment, I thought like, okay, they're on the same page as me. Y'all got to show out. Y'all not even able to be on every card. So when you're on a card, first of all, don't pull out. Try your best to be careful in training and during the fight. You got to go all out. And I think that's a big thing that hurt Cavalcante. The judges were looking for her to go all out. Not just in the third, the whole fight. You get a high-ranked opponent like that, man, you got to go for it. You got to go for it, period. You better find yourself. Bannon could not get into that habit of throwing those goofy kicks, which was good. That was a good thing. And she had a pretty good sized knot on her head, right? Yeah, she had a pretty good knot on her head. I think that came from an elbow. But when they got this stoppage, I was like relieved. I'm like, good. Because that would have been a stinking decision fight. Sloppy. I mean, a little tenacious. Tenacity at the beginning. But then it got real sloppy. Where she's just laying on top of her. Looking like nothing's happening. Yeah, I didn't want a fight like that. So good thing she got the stoppage. You know, I talk a lot about effort. I think Hamzat, for example, will bounce back and will always have a fan base, even if he continues to lose. As long as he continues to fight with the same energy and have the same confidence and spirit. I think this is what these girls really need to learn. Y'all have to go all out. Let your hands go. Let your hands go. If you see your opponent respects you, show them why they should respect you. Because Ketlen was showing her a lot of respect. I've seen Ketlen tee off. On most of her opponents, Ketlen has teed off far more than she did against Cavalcante. I've never seen her that conservative. On the feet, I'm talking about Ketlen Vieira. It's like she don't read her opponents well, in my opinion. She don't do a lot of things well, but that's one of them. You see, I know you had to watch all of Ketlen's fights. You should have immediately noticed she's not throwing as many strikes against me as she did against those other opponents. I have her respect. Now, once you know that, you need to go after them. You need to go after them. And you need to go after them in a way this worse than what they seen on film. You need to make them feel like it's worse in person than it was on film. You got to put it on them. Now, if they come off teeing off on you, it's harder. It's going to be harder for you to, be in a position to tee off on them and be at your best. You can't let your opponent get the upper hand like that. You sitting up there watching and waiting. And Ketlen, I believe, said, okay, I'll step it up. More often, Ketlen was first. Cavalcante trying to play striker. You saw a few times Cavalcante got hit and didn't even counter. Didn't even throw them back. It's like, what are you doing? All she can do is box, man. And I don't know about y'all. That takedown looked easy to me. Like she just peeled her off the cage and laid her down. Laid her down like a baby. So look, man, as other people pointed out, many of these girls went into MMA to lose weight. They found that it's a fun way to get in shape and started to believe in themselves. And maybe they're skilled. But that's a different type of fighter than a fighter who's been in this their whole life. And with the women, you just got a lot of that. You got a lot of that. More of that. I think it's more. I may be wrong. There's a lot of that. Fighters who are late bloomers, where it started off them hitting the mitts. Right? They had a little fun. Noticed that they dropped a few pounds. Started to get a little serious with the punches. Start feeling themselves. Say, yeah, I want to go in the fight. Let me have a few amateur fights. But you get in there against high-level fighters who've been, like I said, fighting their whole life in much better shape than you, can move around much better than you. I mean, and look, man, Ketlen is not that She's not that fleet-footed herself. But she made Cavalcante look like she was standing in quicksand. So yeah, man. And I think Aileen Perez posted something about being more confident about getting the belt at 135. Who knows? And who knows ultimately who in. Can you imagine Cavalcante against Bia Mosquito? You know, you got better ground fighters out there than Ketlen. Ketlen, a lot of times, ends up just laying on her opponents. Unable to submit them. You know, unable to get off significant ground and pound. So, yeah. At the very least, this will be interesting to see where everybody ends up at. And you already know, I can see it now. Some of them are going to get pushed out of the rankings. Looking at how poor the division is, it has no choice but to go up from here. I will leave it there.